the enactment of the secondary legislation. And with that, our main challenge is going to be the execution and the implementation. The good news implies more work. When we talk about the potential of Mexico in the energy sector, but the thing is that we do have the potential in renewable energy, and not only the potential, but the public policy to promote them. I was just talking to Michael about that potential, not only on wind, but on solar, for example. We're the third country, geothermal, we're the fourth. So where do we stand in renewable energy? Well, the matrix of all the electricity that are generated, 22% is based on renewable energy. How is this distributed? Well, I think that Mexico is like different Mexicos in it, not only in a cultural way, but in a geographical way. And I want to apply that to the potential in renewable energy. For example, we have on the south, in Oaxaca, very strong winds. Isolation or regarding solar issues, we have up north, the desert of Sonora, Chihuahua. Hydro, Chiapas, for example, in the center. Geothermal, from my hometown, Mexicali, Baja California, up north. So this is where we stand. I don't want to focus a lot on renewable because I know that Duncan is also a Mexican. He knows a lot of the Mexican issues, but also an expert in these areas. So I want to focus on the energy reform. Before I focus on the energy reform, I want to say that the national program, the national development program of our country, established a special program for the better use of renewable energy. And that program established specific lines of actions and goals. And those specific goals, they're also based on certain laws or acts, for example, the Clean Energy Act or the Better Use for Renewable Energy Act, that it established that we need to, in 2024, we need to reach the percentage of 35% of renewable energy. So here's the main question. How are we going to get there? How are we going to achieve that? And the other main question is, what happens if we don't achieve that? As Ambassador said, I'm a lawyer, so I remember when we were studying, this will be like what they taught us is an imperfect norm because there's no sanction. But the energy reform is going to provide these tools in order to achieve that goal and in order to set up who's going to be responsible. So the energy reform is very broad. It involves the hydrocarbon sector, the electricity sector. If I have to sum up the energy reform in a few points, it will be, look, one, Mexico will continue to be the sole owner of the hydrocarbons in the subsoil. Two, free competitions between state and private companies on upstream, downstream, midstream commercialization, as well as the industrial energy, the electric industry. Two, to strengthen the regulatory bodies. We do have two regulatory bodies on the hydrocarbon sector, which is called the National Hydrocarbon Commission, and in electricity matters, it is going to be the Energy Regulator Commission. And the transformation of what are we going to call the National Productive Enterprise that had the monopoly on the hydrocarbon and electricity sector, that it was CFE and Pemex. What is that transformation about? Also, well, it's based on autonomy, on budget management autonomy. They're going to transform the fiscal regime. But the main key is that we need to set up the legal framework in order to compete with the private competitors. This reform is a game changer, and CFE and CFE and Pemex will be another competitors in the benefit of the consumer. Another point is transparency and accountability. And 5, the environmental protection and promotion of clean energy. In this matter, there's going to be an agency, a national agency concerning security industry in order to bear or to promote the environmental issues. I want to focus now on the electric industry. So before I do that, I want to bear in mind the diagnosis of what was happening in our country. Well, the irony is that we were importing 30% of natural gas. We do have the resources, but the thing is that the gas demand was increasing while the production has been reduced. And as we all know, the prices are based on the fuel that we use. Where we were using fuel oil that is 5 times more expensive and pollutant than natural gas. And also, the energy losses are way above of the international percentage. The OECD is 6%. Now our loss distribution is around 15%. So we are having higher rates, higher prices, 25% higher than the United States. That's contemplating the subsidies, because if we don't contemplate the subsidies, it's like 73% more expensive. So this is what the picture before the reform. How are we gonna do this? Well, we have certain tools. We need to open access. We need to make a distinction in generation, commercialization, distribution, and transportation. Free competition concerning the generation. 2, this reform is based on checks and balances. We're going to have the regulator and we're going to have independent operator. This independent operator will be in charge of the planning and the dispatch. That would allow a competitive market. Another tool that has to do specific for renewable energy is the clean energy certificates. And as I said, the agreements of CFE with third parties concerning that transmission and distribution. These actions, the actions what are, well, we're gonna have more investment, faster interconnection, optimal dispatch in order to reduce the losses in distribution. The objectives, is we want better rates, better prices for the users, for the consumers, to reduce the environmental impact. One of the objectives also is to guarantee universal access. In Mexico, we're about 98% of access, but in the last years have been moving very slowly. So I want now to divide my presentation in the different sectors of the process. In generation, as I said, we were using a lot of fuel oil. Who was the only one who could generate CFE, and in certain cases for self-suppliers, but they can only sell it to CFE? With the reforms, there's going to be an electricity market with private investment, and they're going to participate in a free competition. The conditions will be equitable. Who will set up the conditions? The regulator. Who will be in charge of the dispatch of the grid and system? The independent operator. That has to do with the next slide. What was happening concerning the operational control? Well, the interconnection was based on 47 steps. So we had a lot of problems on the delaying. So the reform is proposing to change all this. How? With the implementation of and regulation based on this new independent operator that is called SENACE. is the Centro Nacional de Control de Energía, the National Center of Control of Energy, which control the national electrical system. He's the one who's gonna evaluate the rules and the interconnection rules, and it's gonna be, the special are gonna be under the criteria of economic merit. Now, 3, transmission and distribution. As I said, we're having a lot of losses in distribution. So in this particular sector, CFE will be able to celebrate agreements with the private sector. This regulator will regulate all that transmission rates, and we're gonna create, it has been created, the Universal Electric Service Fund. This has to do with one of our goals, universal access. So this Universal Electric Service Fund will focus to bring energy to the rural areas and the marginalized urban areas. How it's going to be funded? Well, it has to do with the losses. Once we increase the losses of the distribution, that money will fund this fund. Now, 3, because of the time, I wanna just emphasize 2 main points of the reform. One of them has to do with clean energy certificates. So, this is brand new. If you think that the secondary legislation approval of the enactment will respond a lot of the questions, the thing is that now we have more questions, and this is one of the challenges that we do have. These clean energy certificates have been exist in other countries and have worked, for example, in the United Kingdom. It is now regulated in the Electric Industry Act, but the guidelines of these certificates will be established at the end of the year. Geothermal law, okay, as I said, the potential in geothermal law is very big. So with this law, we'll regulate the different areas, surveillance, exploration, and developments based on permits, contracts, and concessions. There's going to be a round 0 for CFE for these areas. Regarding the rates and prices, as I said, the regulator will set up the rates for transmission and distribution. Now, concerning the consumers, the users, we need to make a distinction based on the basic users or the standard users and the qualified users.
Excuse me, Mr. Vizcarra, if you could just try to wrap up, we're already...
That's the next one.
Okay.
Well, the conclusions is the expectation is to reduce the rates, the prices. We have more competition, guarantee universal access, and all these based on the best international practice, transparency, and just a quick commercial because this cost us like 20 million pesos. This is an inventory. Now that you are also are very focused on renewable energy, this inventory of CENER, that's the webpage, where you can see the potential, the install capacity, everything has to do with renewable energy. Thank you very much.